And so I'm going to ask this question to all of you. You can shout it out, but if you know me, don't shout it out because that's not fair. So anybody have an idea where my family might come from? Just by looking at me. Where? Ireland. Russia. Germany. Finland. I love this. Anyone else? Greece? Oh, Greece.
Italy?
Italy. Egypt. Wow. I could be from anywhere. Oh my God. This is so cool. All right, so maybe all right, so here we go. I'm going to tell you where I'm from. My family is Polish, Russian, Italian, and American. In fact, my mother is Jewish and my father is Catholic. Okay, so I am a pizza bagel. That's what I was brought up as things. When I was growing up, people were like, oh, you know what you are? You're a pizza bagel. And I'm like, yeah, I sure am. I'm going to wear that. That's what I'm going to do. And so this idea that I was a pizza bagel kind of permeated my life, and I celebrated every single Jewish holiday. I celebrated every single Christian holiday, and guess what happened? I was confused. I was completely confused. I was totally confused. And so look, here is, that's my father, by the way. And as you can see, my father had a lot of big hand movements. My father is from Italy, off the boat from Italy, and everything was, and we were always using our hands and sort of, I went to Italy finally and I decided life makes sense now. Everyone's yelling at each other. And I so get this now. I so get where they're coming from, right? And so I'm going to sort of tell you a story right now about American culture through the lens of my father's life. Now, my father, Ennio Riga, passed away 2 years ago. And when he passed away, he left me his life story. He literally wrote down his life story before he died. And so I have it. And I have since wrote a book to culminate his life story, which is really cool. But my father, Ennio, came from Italy at a time of war. So both of my parents grew up in a time of war. My mother was in somewhere in Siberia, born in Siberia, running from Nazi Germany. And my father was in Italy, escaping this time of total war, and there were this group of people that were against the people that were in war. They were called the partisans, and the Americans actually came to help my father eventually, and so they brought him cigarettes and Spam and all this stuff, and my father was like, these are the greatest people. I want to go there one day. I want to be like these people. And that's sort of what happened. This idea of America, the city on a hill, this white picket fence life, sort of permeated his mind, and he set out on a journey to find America. And so, in the midst of it, my father climbed the proverbial corporate ladder. And he started as a dishwasher, went to delivery boy, finally ended up as a waiter, and then had a few other experiences. Because in America, we have this strong work ethic where deadlines and results and personal achievements mean a lot. And so he sort of went into this space where he worked at the Peacock Alley at the Waldorf Astoria. He worked at the Capriccio restaurant in Atlantic City where he met a ton of celebrities, and that's a whole other story. And then finally he ended up working and having his own restaurant, which was pretty cool. But this whole idea that he was on a mission, he was on a journey for success. And so what he did was he sort of created this personal brand for ourselves. And we talk about that a lot in America. We're like, how are you branding yourself? Well, what is your brand? What is your elevator pitch? I mean, how many of you have heard about the elevator pitch? How many of you actually have an elevator pitch? Good. I think it's important. I think so. So my dad created this brand. He became known as the dancing chef. And why? Because he used to cut up fruit. He sang and danced, and he did this little show, and he lit it on fire, and then everyone ate it, and it was delicious. It was absolutely delicious. But he had this little brand, and that's the book right there that is almost out. It's almost finally done. And so when I said he worked at the Resorts International, he was there from 1980 to 1984, and during that time, he hung out with these guys. Like Frank Sinatra was my dad's friend. And when he hung out with them, he, cooked tableside for them, developed relationships. But, in America we have this whole thing about celebrities. We have paparazzi. We have news shows just about celebrities' personal lives. Like, I'm not sure that is translated in other cultures. I'm not quite sure. But this is this idea of stars and things like that. And then so as my dad sort of progressed in different ways, he had this idea, and he was actually on some television shows. And one of the things he did was this television commercial, this Chef Boyardee commercial, which he hated. He hated this idea that he was doing this commercial because it was like sauce in a can. And if you're an Italian chef, you don't want to be serving people sauce in a can, and now his face was on TV. But he did it for the experience and the exposure. But in America, we do this thing, we need things fast. Everything is fast. We have this, the Amazon effect. People are starting to not shop in malls anymore. They're going on Amazon, and everything comes to you fast. Everything comes the next day. And so that's something that is very American. We have fast food and fast information, and everything is fast. And then, somewhere around midlife, I guess, my dad shifted into more of a leadership position. And he used to say to me, Julie, I've raised all of these children. And I'm like, Dad, what do you mean you've raised these children? I'm your child. I'm like, I thought you were raising me. And it was only until I started writing the book and reading and working on it that I truly understood what it meant when he said I raised these children. But my dad was leaving a legacy. And so we talk about that a lot in the book. It's about this idea that he left a legacy, he left something behind. And my dad sort of raised these chefs, these young chefs, to become master chefs. And he, had a bunch of people that worked for him that absolutely loved him. I got to interview tons of people about this. And so at some point in our life when we're leaders or we're working, we make that shift. Well, at least we hope we do. That we make this shift where it's less about me and my success, but more about the success of the people that come behind me. So it was definitely something we talk about. We talk about leadership in America. We talk about legacy as well. And so my dad had this sort of thing that he used to say to me. And he said, Julie, we're really like raindrops, raindrops. You can see right through us. And I'm like, yeah, Dad. I don't know always that that's a good thing. It gets me in trouble sometimes. But it's the point my dad was trying to make is that was the connection. My dad showed up real so that people could connect to them. And so what I'd like to just leave you with is now you're going to have some time to go and visit the different countries in here. And what I'd like to say is, why don't you break the ice? Why don't you try dropping your waterline, breaking the ice with people? And I have this sort of equation that authenticity and curiosity equals connection. So I leave you with that thought, and I wish you a nice time. So everybody, please take part in food and activities, and I'll be back at the U.S. table to talk about best practices and U.S. best practices, and at the other tables there will also be some best practices from different countries. So with that, I leave it back to Mindy. Sorry.